What do you mean you're getting wine at a Denny's? Hi, hello. I recently read Half His Age by Jeanette McCurdy, and I had a lot of feelings about it. This is the second time I will be recording this. The first time my microphone wasn't working, and so it was recording through my phone mic, and I didn't know it was recording through my phone, so the audio was basically unusable. I want to record this and never talk about this book again because truly it is something. I've only seen a handful of videos recommended to me on YouTube about this book, and one of them was by Jess Owens. I'll link the video. I think she did a really good job talking about the book, but she didn't go into the actual details of the book. And then just recently, L Literacy, she also just posted a video about this book. Those are like really the only two that I've really seen talking about Half His Age, and I haven't watched L's video yet, but I did watch Jess Owens, and I want to talk about it. That's really it. I want to talk about it. So we're gonna go kind of chapter by chapter and just talk about the plot and things that happen and my feelings along the way, and then hopefully I'll be able to come up with something coherent at the end to kind of wrap up my thoughts about this book and what did work and what didn't. We'll see. We'll see. Jumping in, the very first chapter and the very first scene of this book is sex with two minors. It is our main character, our female point of view, Waldo, pin in that, and a guy that she's seeing named Randy Julep. Again, these are both minors, and even for this opening scene, I felt like it was pretty graphic. And that's like one of my biggest issues with this book is how graphic the sex is in a lot of it, especially because for the majority of the book, it is between either two minors or a minor and an adult. And I just feel like we could have done without that. Okay, so Waldo, let's take that pin out. Why is our main character named Waldo? Like, are you kidding me? Really? That's the name we stuck with. That wasn't just a placeholder. I was waiting the entire book for someone to say, "Where's Waldo?" because I could only imagine that was the reason why someone would choose Waldo as a name. Anyway, right off the bat, we get one of many, so many it's hard being a woman moments, and it's nothing new and it's nothing in depth and it's nothing that's really being brought to the conversation. It is simply, I am a woman and things are hard. Quote, shaving it or scraping it or strapping it in or exfoliating it or lathering it or shoving a coarse cotton plug into it. Always doing something to stop my body from doing what it wants to do. Oozing or bursting or bleeding, making too much hair in the wrong places and not enough in the right ones. This kind of gave me hope. This first chapter, honestly, this first passage kind of gave me hope that we would get some kind of conversation about how difficult and awkward it can feel to grow into an adult body as a teenager, but we don't. We really don't. It really is just like the expectations of women is hard, and that's really all that we ever get throughout this novel, even though this kind of conversation happens many, many times. We also get so much unnecessary name dropping in this book. Enough that I will keep a running total of all the random name drops throughout the book, excluding any that a character says in dialogue and then any repeats, but it was like egregious. It got to the point where it's just egregious and so unnecessary. Quote, I glance at his nightstand, at his plate of pizza crust that's been sitting out the past few times I've been here, and his dog-eared copy of The Subtle Art of Not Giving a Fuck. The trifecta movie posters pinned up next to them, Scarface, Goodfellas, Pulp Fiction. So that's already 4, and we are one chapter into this book. The scene ends and the chapter ends with the two breaking it off. It's very unceremonious. Waldo's like, I think I'm kind of over this. And Randy's like, cool, see you next time. And that's really that. The very first line of chapter 2 is, quote, when I get home, I kick my shoes off, take a leak, and throw the toilet paper away since we've never not had clogging issues, end quote. The verbiage, take a leak, is used 3 times in this book, and I feel that it is 3 times too many. We learn a lot of background information about Waldo. Her mother is practically absent from her life and works a lot. She is either working or with her boyfriend, and her mom leaves microwave meals for Waldo. We learn that Waldo definitely has a shopping addiction, and we always get a read about her online hauls. Again, just paragraphs after paragraphs of everything she's buying and from where, and like the spiral. We get another very entry-level criticism about consumerism through the book. Quote, "It's nice to believe promises, even empty ones, and cute typefaces on the backs of little cardboard packages." I feel like Jeanette McCurdy tried so hard to make Waldo like a very relatable Gen Z character because of like the places that she's buying stuff. She talks about scrolling on TikTok, she talks about scrolling on YouTube, and she's just, you know, so quirky and relatable. The name drops for this chapter include YouTube, Sephora, Margot Robbie, and Shein. That brings our total to 8. In the next chapter, we are introduced to the love interest, Mr. Corgi, which again, that's the name we chose. Okay. He is her English teacher, and it starts out with him monologuing, quote, "I'm a failure, an absolute failure. This was not my dream. I wanted to be a writer, a novelist, but I couldn't handle the lack of security required to be one," end quote. Waldo is instantly obsessed with him, even though he's described to be very like average looking. Like, he's not hot. He's not supposed to be hot. Kind of sets up this like breadcrumb of Corgi's personality, in that he's very like self-pitying, he wallows, he thinks that he sucks and is just not a very good person. Like, he's very unhappy with his life. Name drops for this chapter include Kayak, the travel site, and Neosporin, bringing our total to 10. Next, we learn that Waldo works at Victoria's Secret. She is 17. This bothered me so much that I looked it up, and just about everywhere that, and every link I clicked on says that Victoria's Secret will not hire anyone under 18, and for good reason. For very good reason. I do not want to be a 25-year-old adult going to Victoria's Secret to get a bra sizing, and the person who is helping me size is a minor. If Victoria's Secret were to hire minors, that would set them up for many a host of lawsuits. Name drop counter for this chapter includes Victoria's Secret, Dick's, Barnes & Noble, Claire's, Lush, Bath & Body, Sephora, Michael Kors, 7-Eleven, and iPhone. Our total is 20. Chapter 5 starts with a second take a leak mention. The entire chapter is just a shopping haul. We don't get anything else. It's so surface level. The name drops for this chapter include Totino's, Nirvana, Ferrari, YouTube, Jubilee, Shein, Forever 21, Princess Polly, Amazon, Target, Etsy, H&M, Zara, YesStyle, Boohoo, Bank of America, and Walgreens. We are at 37. Chapter 6 starts with the kind of really gross descriptions of things that, gross like sex things that Waldo wants to do. Quote, "I fantasize that I lift his shirt and touch his paunch, watch it jiggle, study the curly hairs on his belly, and lick them straight." I saw an interview with McCurdy where she says that she thought of sex as to be like kind of violent and gross in a lot of ways, and that definitely comes through in this chapter. But I think the issue is that I'm reading such vivid fantasies from a 17-year-old. Like, that is the issue here. Whether or not this like description is for me, whether or not I relate, whether or not someone else might relate, the issue is that it's a 17-year-old. In chapter 7, we are introduced to Franny. She is Waldo's only friend. She's a Mormon, and Waldo does kind of hate her. She kind of resents her. And we are told that Franny drops the G from the end of words. So everything turns into everything. Thinking, wondering. McCurdy does write it out every single time too. And instead of just doing like the little apostrophe to drop the G, it's like every THEEN. And I hated reading it every single time. It pissed me off so bad. Name drops include Glossier, Aesop, Mini Cooper, and Toyota, bringing our total to 41. Waldo tries to look good for Corgi. She is just so relatable in that she is putting in a lot of effort to look so effortless. We get to read multiple pages about how she was getting ready for school, including multiple outfit changes, hair, makeup, the whole nine. In class, she reads an assignment out loud, and Corgi says that it's good. After class, she runs to the bathroom, pulls up his Instagram, and masturbates. Name drops include American Girl, New York Times, Benefit Makeup, Sephora, and Instagram. Our total is 46. Chapter 9 is another shopping spree. This is our third. Waldo is working on an assignment for Corgi's class, a personal essay, and the name drops include VO5, Instagram, and Tums, 49. It's mid-October. Corgi keeps Waldo after class one day, says that she's really good at writing, asks how, is like really interested in her as a writer, as a pupil, and she is only writing that way to get his attention. Name drops are goldfish. Kind of a rapid fire here. Chapter 11, nothing really happens. Name drops are Safeway and Campbell's Soup. Chapter 12, we get Tupperware as a name drop. Nothing happens in chapter 13. In chapter 14, Mr. Corgi comes into Victoria's Secret while Waldo is at work. This is really weird. It is not weird to be a high school student and to be working your part-time after school job and for a teacher to come in. I worked at a movie theater. I saw teachers and classmates all the time while I was at work. It was the only movie theater in town. That's not weird. What's weird is if I was working at a store that sells bra, underwear, and lingerie, and my male teacher came in and didn't just come in, but also went up to me to talk to me exclusively. In this discussion, in this chat they're having, he invites Waldo over for dinner and says it's a dinner out of respect. Chapter 15, we get another getting ready montage. It just reiterates that same like being a woman is so hard sentiment and how much effort us women have to go through to look the way we're supposed to. Name drops for this chapter include Target and Mango, bringing our total to 55 name drops within the first 15 chapters. Are you starting to see why I'm including them? So chapter 16 is during this dinner date situation. Waldo immediately paints Corky's wife Gwen in like a very pick me, she sucks, I deserve him kind of a way. Quote, I have a feeling that she did know that this is one of their most heavily rotated stories, the kind that every couple collects after they've been together a while. The lines rehearsed, the beats memorized, even the shared glances as part of the act. Sure did, he says, knowing his line, only there's a little heat on it. Maybe he doesn't like the story anymore. Maybe he's tired of it or he's outgrown it. So it's really subtle, but I feel like it really shows Waldo's thought process as a young adult pining after this teacher, in that I feel no matter what his wife Gwen would say, she would be like, ugh. She would say that because she sucks. Waldo does kind of share that there's someone at school that she does have a crush on, but she's kind of vague about it. Corgy's son wakes up and Gwen puts him back to bed, and while it is just Corgy and Waldo at this table, they share kind of a tense moment. Chapter 17, Waldo emails Corgy and thanks him for the dinner and attaches her phone number. So now they are able to text. Chapter 18, it is Thanksgiving. Corgy calls Waldo. She's spending the day with Franny since her mom is spending the day with her boyfriend. They both kind of bond over feeling unwelcome. We learn that Corgy's in-laws really don't like him, and Gwen will spend holidays with their son at her parents and exclude Corgy. Waldo ends the call by saying that if he ever wants to go on a walk, that she's available, and he declines, says that he probably shouldn't. Name drops include Mullen and Goez, bringing our total to 56. Okay, chapter 19, Waldo is working at Victoria's Secret on Black Friday. Her mom comes in, but it's really unclear that it's her mom for like quite a while. I only kind of snapped that it was her mom that she was talking about when her mom mentions the boyfriend by name. She tries on lingerie in front of Waldo and kind of like presents each piece to Waldo, which I thought was really weird and inappropriate. Quote, she strikes a pose, ass shoved out, back arched, seductive mouth, bedroom eyes. She also tries on a bikini in this montage, which I really doubt would be available considering this book takes place in Alaska. And it's November. I lived in North Carolina for a couple years, so there were stores where I could buy a swimsuit year round, but it definitely would not have been at like a Victoria's Secret in November. So unless you live somewhere where it's hot literally all year round, I really doubt that there would be a swimsuit available. And again, they're in Alaska and it's November. We get another just like really surface level view of consumerism and Black Friday. Quote, Black Friday in any retail store is the best case study of consumer behavior, a terrifying peek into how much pain one human is willing to inflict on another human to save $5 on a lotion with glitter in it. This chapter ends with Corgi texting Waldo and asking if she wants to go on a walk. We get the name drops of Cinnabon and JCPenney's. Chapter 20 starts with the line, quote, a quick lie to my boss, a speeding drive home, end quote. I highly doubt, and I mean I highly doubt, that anyone working in a mall on Black Friday would be able to get out of work that easy. It would have to be a very big lie. It would have to be like kind of something monumental for her to be able to leave and not put her job in jeopardy. We get another getting ready montage, quote, a cloud of perfume, a flurry of clothes, and countless creams, lotions, liquids, and powders later. Again, reinforcing this, it takes so much to get ready as a woman idea that I am already quite over. The timing of this chapter is really kind of confusing for me. So she's working at Victoria's Secret, which let's say she's at work, and then she gets this text to leave. So she leaves work. I'm like assuming, I'm getting the vibe that maybe it's like early to late afternoon, right? But I looked this up because it bothered me so much. In November in Alaska, one, it would be quite cold and it would get dark quite early. Sunset at this time of year in Alaska would have been at like 4 p.m. So I feel like there wouldn't have really been a lot of time for them to be out in the sun, but they walk by a jogger who, like she explicitly writes, is right in the sun. So it's super bright out at the very least, right? Then later they have to wait for AAA, which like I guess AAA could take a while, but it just feels really weird because that chapter ends, quote, a AAA car turns onto the road, its bright headlights blurred in the snowy windshield. So like one, just how long did they have to wait truly? Like truly. And two, it's snowing, but they still went on this walk, and they didn't talk about like being bundled up or like being excruciatingly cold or like Waldo suffering just to spend some time with Corgi. Like none of that happened. So it just felt weird. Anyway, while they're on this walk, Corgi shares some of his background. We find out that his sister died, but for me, it was really unclear just how she died. We assume it's an accident, but it also sounds like it could be like a potential suicide. He found her on the floor of the bathroom. Waldo ends up slipping on some ice as well, and she kisses Corgi when he helps her up. He freaks out and is like, you can't do this, like that's not okay. And she runs to her car and it won't start, thus the AAA. He explains that he can't, like he's not going to report her because it would look like it was his fault and it would fall back on him. This really shows how naive Waldo is, and I think, and I will give McCurdy credit for this. She does a really good job at writing Waldo as a naive and quite frankly stupid teenager. A lot of her views about the world, you can tell, are very like small and unrealistic as an adult, but like definitely feel like something that a teenager would be thinking and feeling. So I'll give McCurdy that. Name drops for the chapter are Disney World. Our total is at 59. Once Waldo gets home, she ends up meeting her mom's boyfriend, who leaves almost immediately, and they spend the night watching, I think, Survivor together, and they're both distracted by their own boy troubles. The start of chapter 23, we get another commentary on women. Quote, a pair of gorgeous magazine-worthy girls gossip at the sink mirrors and apply no makeup because why wouldn't they? No makeup works if you don't need makeup. If you've got porcelain skin and eyes set so wide they're on opposite hemispheres. I sit on that line that so many sit on, the line between beautiful and not. I can reach it on a good day, if I don't sleep on my face with just the right amount of plucking, primping, and a great hair day and God's grace during my makeup routine. This is just about the only thing that happened in the chapter, other than we learn that Corgi has a substitute teacher, and Waldo thinks it's because of the kiss. In chapter 24, Waldo, Franny, and Franny's boyfriend Tristan all go to the zoo. Name drops, Sour Patch Kids. We are at 60. Okay, chapter 25, it is winter formal. Trigger warning for assault. A classmate comes up to Waldo and she barely recognizes him and does not know his name at all. This bothered me quite a bit because it's something that if you were a freshman in college when a 100 level, 100-person lecture, it would make sense that you wouldn't really recognize this person or know their name, but she's in high school. And I looked it up. I did a lot of math for this. I looked up and found out that the average size of a high school in Anchorage, Alaska is about 400. So if you divide that into individual classes, it's really unlikely that she wouldn't, at the very least, like know who she was looking at, even if she didn't remember his name. But it wouldn't be like, I barely recognize him. It'd be like, oh, I know this guy. As someone who went to school with a class size of around the same, I did know the people who sat next to me in class. I could pull them out in a lineup. I knew their names. Do I still? Absolutely not. But at the time, I definitely did. My classes were maybe 30 people max, and it's the same people that you're seeing an entire semester, if not an entire year in a row. You're going to, like, you're gonna know who they are and recognize them. And probably should know their name. This really bothered me. Sorry. The guy who comes up to her is named Nolan. He starts to flirt with Waldo, but she's giving really short answers. You can tell that she's just not interested. And she ends up leaving the dance and goes to Corky's classroom when he happens to walk in. We find out that he's been absent for 2 weeks and that his father had died, and that's why he was gone. It had nothing to do with the kiss. To comfort him, Waldo asks to give him a hug, and when he doesn't respond, she, quote, takes that as a yes. I don't know who needs to hear this, but silence and a non-answer is not a yes. During this hug, he gets an erection. She pushes him down onto his chair and gets on his lap. She starts to grind on him and very much assaults him. He says no multiple times. He tells her to stop multiple times and she doesn't. She says, quote, just like you can't look at me, I can't get off of you because I see that you're hurting and all I want is to make you feel good. I can't slow down. I want you to know how much I need you. Yeah, she just straight up assaults him. And it's not really addressed. And it's never addressed as it being assault. He never claims it's assault, but like it is. It's pretty textbook actually. Especially because he explicitly says no and she continues. And I think her reflection and what she says to him really shows that there's a lack of understanding there and that she feels like she is in no way in the wrong. In the next chapter, she just reflects on her assault and how good it was. Corky ends up texting her and says that they need to talk. In the next chapter, in chapter 27, they go to a coffee shop and they explicitly drive, like 30 minutes away. He pays with cash, like he's very much trying to hide this entire interaction. He says that no one can find out about what happened, that it would ruin his marriage, and he does admit that he has feelings for Waldo, a child, and acknowledges how wrong the whole thing is. He continues to kind of be self-pitying and basically like, I should be the bigger person here and blah 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 blah, and it's really, I feel pity for him because I think he truly is just kind of like the slime of the earth. He's like a little gross cockroach bug. He says, Waldo, you deserve all of someone who can be there for you fully, someone who's emotionally available. In chapter 28, we get another shopping montage. It's showing that she clearly has a lot of low self-esteem. And Corky texts her and asks if she will be home alone in an hour. Chapter 29, another trigger warning for assault. Corky comes over very drunk. She immediately feels insecure about her home and refers to herself as white trash. Waldo refers to herself as white trash quite a bit, and I don't think she is. I grew up in a very, very small town, in a very rural town, and I had definitely seen some white trash, whether I knew it or not, and I do not think that she is white trash. I think they're poor and struggling, but I don't think that a lot of the things that she does and that her mom does is necessarily white trash. Again, this kind of just bothered me. She ends up giving him a whiskey drink and they go to her bedroom and they have sex. It is too graphic for what is being depicted, sex with a minor. I will say that I can appreciate that this book is not for young adults. It is marketed towards adults, but at the same time, it's for adults, and we're reading about teenagers having sex and teenagers having graphic sex. Teenagers have sex. That's fine. It's fine that they do that, but it should not be written this explicitly, especially when your target audience is adults. I feel like that's almost worse than if the target audience was teenagers. Name drops for this chapter include Bath & Body, Crate and Barrel, Jennifer Lawrence, Architecture Digest, Lee LeBeau, Salvation Army, and Red Cross. Our total is at 67. Okay, in our next chapter, we get another internet spiral. She goes looking at Christmas lights with Franny and Tristan. Franny comments that she looks well, but Waldo, as such an insecure person, thinks that this is kind of backhanded and takes it as an attack. Pretty much every time anyone says anything good to her, she's like, they're only saying that to make themselves feel better. And that gets really old really quick. Name drops in this chapter are YouTube. Corky texts her and asks if he was too drunk. If he has to ask and say that he is too drunk, then he probably was. That's assault, babe. He texts and says, quote, you're so bright and your mind is such a sponge. I want to expose you to art and film and music and books. I want to inspire you. Again, like, he's not even trying to avoid this relationship anymore. He's fully indulging in it, and I think that is really disgusting of him. Gwen is out of town for Christmas, again with her family, and Corky is not invited. So Corky and Waldo, they go to a resort and have sex in a hotel room. They talk about their childhoods, specifically about different Christmases. When they are on the ride home, he plays clips from comedians he enjoys and music that he likes. This chapter really bothered me because I understand that, like, not the music I listened to when I was younger maybe is not music that Gen Z kids listened to when they were younger, but she talks about, like, not knowing a Red Hot Chili Peppers song, and it's, like, definitely one of their most popular. And just, like, the way she's talking about these bands, I'm just like, there's no way that you wouldn't understand, that you wouldn't know, like, at all. You know? So I don't know, that just kind of bothered me. Name drops include Tic Tacs, World of Warcraft, Richard Pryor, George Carlin, Lenny Bruce, No Doubt, Matchbox 20, Red Hot Chili Peppers, Radiohead, The Cure, The Pixies, and The Big Lebowski. Our total is now 80. In chapter 33, Waldo and her mom are at Denny's getting breakfast. Quote, she's in a shitty mood because she hasn't heard from her man yet, and I'm in a good one because I have heard from mine. Her mother orders a glass of wine at Denny's. This is, like, the second instance of an editor should have caught this and pointed out that this is, like, a factual inaccuracy. I told my husband about this and how much it bothered me, and he said that he had been to a Denny's where he was able to get alcohol, and it was because there was a Denny's and there was a bar, and if they ordered alcohol from the bar, the waiter would bring it over to the Denny's. Don't know how that works legally with, like, a liquor license and all that. Doesn't really matter. That is not Denny's providing the alcohol, though. That's different. I looked up the Anchorage, Alaska Denny's, and I went to their menu, and there is nowhere that it would sell alcohol. This bothered me so much because what do you mean you're getting wine at a Denny's? They could have been to, like, any other breakfast place. McCurdy could have made up a diner for them to go to that their mom could have ordered a drink from. Any brunch place is going to have a brunch cocktail. Why a Denny's? Like, be for real. Really? Okay. On New Year's Eve, Corky comes over to Waldo's house and they have sex. I'm skipping over the sex in a lot of this book because it is really graphic and really unnecessary and makes me uncomfortable to talk about because it's a minor. He talks about how things will change once the semester starts again and how he won't have as much time to spend with her because he will be balancing his family and school and work and all of that. Name drops Amazon. When school starts, they do in fact have less time together. They squeeze in time and sex just about wherever they can, including at school. Name drops Starface, TikTok, and Clorox. Just more framing of Gwen as a nagging and annoying wife. Waldo is really struggling to be the second woman, which, no offense, but if you can't be the second woman, then maybe you shouldn't be the second woman at all. Anyway, Corgi bails last minute on plans with Waldo. That ends up being for her birthday. She spirals with another shopping spree and only comes out of it when Corgi texts her that he can in fact come over. They spend the day together as they had previously planned. They have sex. It's whatever. In chapter 39, Waldo goes skating with Franny and Tristan. That's it. That's the only purpose of this chapter. Name drops Home Depot, bring our total to 85. Waldo uses her lunch break at work to have sex with Corky in his car. Name drops Candy Crush, JCPenney, Subaru, and Cheerios. We get another getting ready montage as Waldo gets ready for her third date with Corgi. Just as he is supposed to pick her up, he bails and she has a full breakdown. Waldo is then having dinner with Corgi and she snaps because her jealousy of Gwen is, quote, getting between them. She gets irate whenever he has to take a call from Gwen while they are together, and she feels that they have so little time together that he should really just be focusing on her and ignore Gwen. While he's on the phone with Gwen, Waldo, quote, finds herself where any lost soul finds themselves. Their save for later section on Amazon. Okay. They end up making up during their dinner, and at the end of their dinner as they are leaving, their server says, quote, I just have to let you know you seem like such a good dad. Name drops for the chapter is Denny's, Amazon, Coke, Auntie Annie's, Jessica Chastain, American Airlines, Bridesmaids, Like Crazy, The Girl with the Dragon Tattoo, and Cinnabon, bringing our total to 99. It is spring break and Corgi is on a trip with his wife and Waldo is very distraught the entire time. They said that they were going to email and that he would email her as soon as he landed. So she's like checking her email constantly. She's drafted up a couple emails to send to him. She tracked his flight information to see when he would land and when he would send an email. While she's so distraught, she calls her mom and her mom fails to give her really any comfort. Name drops include Grey Goose, Gmail, and Diet Coke. During this week that Corgi was gone, she purchased 5 online carts. While Corgi is away, Waldo breaks into his house. She masturbates with his cologne bottle on his bed. Afterwards, she eats their food and watches home videos on their computer. Name drops Converse and Jean Paul Gaultier. 105, by the way. When Corgi comes back from his trip, he breaks things off with Waldo. He continues to paint himself as like a silly, stupid loser and a nobody and that he sucks. Quote, Waldo, my hair's thinning, my gut's growing, and I'm sad most of the time. My in-laws pay most of my family's bills. I'm a fucking high school teacher. Your high school teacher. I should have walked away. I shouldn't have caved. I'm supposed to be stronger than that, bigger than that. I'm supposed to be the adult here. Do you understand? I do not deserve you. Do you hear me? You're pretty and smart and capable and young. Again, credit where credit is due. I feel like these are 2 very insufferable characters, but very realistic characters. I know that there are high schoolers out there, young women, who think the exact way that Waldo does, who does the exact things that Waldo does. There's people who have such low self-esteem that they would see any compliment from their friend as an attack, that there's adults out there who are just wallowing in their self-pity and paint themselves as such a loser and are insufferable. McCurdy did a great job with these characters. My issue is that there's nothing done with them. They don't grow. They don't change. We don't grow and change with them. Waldo, despite going on this entire journey, stays the exact same throughout the entire book, and that bothers me. There's also so many scenes and chapters in this book that just are unnecessary, that could move the plot forward but don't, and that also just really bothered me and did not make me enjoy this book anymore. Post-breakup, Waldo ends up telling Franny about her relationship, and Franny is the only person who outright says that he is abusive and that it is bad. He wants to report him, but Waldo convinces her not to. Waldo cries, and then Franny points out that it's the first time that she's ever seen Waldo cry, and Waldo thinks, quote, this is why I don't cry in front of others, because people like Franny use tears as a fucked up currency. They mistake tears for a compliment to their caretaking, their hand-holding. The tears make them feel bigger than, better than. Make them think you're weak, vulnerable, and your weaknesses give them something to do, something to feel power over. Again, I think that's so powerfully illustrates how low Waldo feels in herself, but we never do anything with it. Name drops Lifetime. Waldo stays home for a week of school after the breakup, and when she returns, Corgi completely ignores her. Nolan, the guy who flirted with Waldo at the winter formal, he notices Waldo's mood and talks to her for a bit, and she asks him out. Waldo and Nolan then go on a date, and she kisses him, quote, I grab his face and shove my tongue down his throat. She's very clearly using Nolan to get over Corgi, and I really hate how aggressive she is when it comes to kissing this child. Okay, in chapter 53, Franny, Tristan, Nolan, and Waldo go on a double date to a 1950s themed restaurant. I understand when people use slang and slang contractions in dialogue and write that out as an author, right? Because that's how people talk. That's the point of dialogue, is to show the dictation and how people speak. Right? I absolutely despise when that slang and when those conjunctions end up in the narration and outside of dialogue. I do not want to see gonna in our character describing what they are going to do unless they are talking to someone. In this chapter, we get the line, quote, lot of chrome, lot of neon signs, a lot of checkered board patterns. This is not her talking to anyone. This is her filling us, the reader, in on what's going on. This is her narrating. And that really pissed me off. Anyway, Corgi and her family and his family end up coming in, and Nolan asks if they should say hi, but Franny shoots Waldo a look and says absolutely not, no we shouldn't. Waldo, she ends up respecting the snow, unlike she respected Corgi's no earlier in the book. Corgi ends up leaving and Waldo goes to the restroom. At first she's going to text him and say that she wants him back, but instead she masturbates. And I am going to read this because it grossed me out, and if I had to read it, you have to hear it. She masturbates, quote, with my chili cheese fingers. The chili burns my vagina, but I keep going and going while that song that goes shaboom, shaboom, life could be a dream plays in the background. In chapter 54, Waldo drives to Corgi's house and sees that it's his birthday. She contemplates going in and just telling everyone about their relationship, but she ends up not and driving away. Corgi continues to ignore Waldo in class, but she notices that he's looking also a little rough. After school, Corgi ends up talking to Waldo in her car and he's worried about her performance. He says that he will fail her, and she basically pulls an ultimatum and says like, no you won't, and drives off. Very much a power play in her part. Waldo meets Nolan's parents and they go upstairs and have sex. She again talks about being self-pitying and how aggressively middle class they are and how everything looks so put together. Nolan and Waldo go to a party at a cabin. Waldo is still very much phoning it in on the relationship. They have sex and she doesn't understand why she doesn't enjoy it, and she doesn't have feelings for Nolan when he, like, all of his individual pieces work for her. Like, he's a good person, he's very nice, he cares about her, but she's just not feeling that interaction. She's not feeling enjoyment. Chapter 58, it is prom. She's getting ready for prom. Chapter 59, they are at prom. In an attempt to make Corgi jealous, Waldo, quote, grabs Nolan's face and jams her tongue into his mouth. Again, why is it so aggressive? I don't like it. Name drops in this chapter are Marriott, Funyuns, McDonald's, Back to the Future, and Cocoa Pebbles. Chapter 60, Corgo, gross celebrity name. Corgi and Waldo have sex in the bathroom. This scene is really confusing for me. I'm just going to read this, and I paraphrased a little bit here just to, cut to the point a bit, but I'm going to read this. I sit on the counter, my dress bunched up and around my waist spilling into the sink. Grubby tiles, occasional questionable water spots on the floor, grimy toilet that gushes every 20 seconds from the trigger-happy motion sensor. I lean back and the motion sensor on the sink gets triggered and the water starts gushing out of the faucet, pouring onto my dress. He moves to the toilet and sits on it while I straddle him. I do not understand where they are in this bathroom. I'm assuming it's like a family bathroom, right? So the sink and the toilet are in one. There's no stalls. She's sitting on the counter, the sink counter. And if she's sitting on the sink counter, then why is the toilet sensor going off? Why is it going off if she's so far away? How small is this bathroom? I cannot imagine being in a bathroom and washing my hands and behind me the toilet's just going off. Like it being that small and the sensor being that sensitive. I don't know about you guys, but most toilet sensors are not sensitive at all. You feel like you're just like waving your hand in front of there forever for it to flush, right? And then they explicitly says that the sink is getting triggered. So she's sitting on the sink and then they get up and sit on the toilet. So why is the toilet going off? This just really bothered me. I felt like those memes where it's like me trying to figure out what position they're doing in fan fiction while I'm also reading it. That's how I felt, because I was like, this does not make sense. This does not make sense. Anyway, while they're having sex, they basically kiss and make up and they are back together. We get more boo-hooing from Waldo. Quote, I hate that phrase, I was worried about you. Franny uses it all the time. It skirts around the truth. Rather than their own feelings, the sense of rejection or disappointment or whatever they experience in reaction to something I did, they find a way of making themselves bigger and me smaller. Again, that's not what that means, but sure, pop off, girl. You clearly have some stuff to work on. Nolan ends up breaking up with Waldo after prom ends. Corgi keeps on painting himself as a little crybaby bitch. Quote, on paper, yes, I am a bad boy. On paper, I'm the worst kind of guy, and I didn't want to face that, to accept it. But I've realized I'd rather be honest about being a bad guy than dishonest about being a good one. He says that he loves Waldo, and she says it back. Chapter 63, it is graduation. Name drops Professor McGonagall, home goods, and iPhones. Our total is at 114. Waldo still is very much struggling with being the second woman. They still are seeing each other like before with all these like rushed visits, and she definitely begins to resent him. Okay, chapter 66. This is a really, really gross chapter. So sorry. Waldo is on her period and she goes over to Corey's house and they have sex, and there's a lot of like really gross period blood stuff, and I am not gonna sit here and yuck anyone's yum for wanting to have period sex. Not at all. pop off, do your thing. But I as a reader like to pretend that periods do not exist. I don't want to read about a period unless it pertains to the plot in any kind of major way. For example, I just finished a book where the main character had their first period and it was like a whole thing. That's fine. Or if a character is trying to get pregnant and they have their period, that's fine, because that adds to the plot. This does not. This was just gross for gross sakes, and I really didn't like it. Quote, he lifts me off of him, sets me on top of the towels, and slaps my tits with his bloody dick. Slap my face with it, I say. Slap your face with your bloody dick. Like, that's gross. That's really gross. Gwen ends up coming home early, and Waldo has to hide in their closet, and she is cupping her period in her hands, which the amount that this girl is bleeding, and like I don't know if I just have always had like lighter periods, but I cannot imagine squatting in someone's closet and like gushing that much blood that I'm holding in my hand. Sorry. Waldo breaks up with Corgi in the next chapter, and Waldo says, quote, this is an escape for both of us, an escape from the shittiness of our regular lives. Corgi cries into Waldo, a pitiful, pitiful little man. I hate him so much. The entirety of chapter 68 is just Corgi texting Waldo and leaving voicemails. He says, we can figure this out, we're good together. He leaves a string of whiny, like, take me back text in the voicemails, and eventually says that he has left his wife, and at this, Waldo takes him back. We're at the home run. We're almost done talking about this plot, and we're getting to the wrap up. So in chapter 69, they go to a fancy hotel. While Waldo thinks that they're going to have sex, Corgi comes in and just cries about his life and falls asleep. They end up ordering room service, they have sex, they check out, go on a walk, get dinner and a movie. Corgi ends up moving into a really shitty hotel, and Waldo kind of moves in with him. They have sex in this motel and watch a whole bunch of pompous movies. Waldo so clearly isn't happy, but is still trying to play pretend and kind of play house. Corgi picks up writing a novel, Gwen throws his items on the lawn, and their motel room is completely maxed out. So this is a chapter that gave me some hope, and it was immediately crushed. I'm going to read a very long quote, but I just need you to hang with me here. Waldo ends up coming home, and her mother has done like a complete 180. She's a different person. The house is clean. She looks put together. Like, she's a very different person. She tells Waldo that she's realized that she's a love addict and reads this pamphlet to Waldo. Hang with me here. Typical signs of love addiction include mistaking intense sexual experiences for love, constantly craving and searching for a romantic relationship, an unhealthy fixation on another person, which may include excessive fantasizing, obsessive compulsions, potentially even stalking, achieving a sense of euphoria from the fantasized relationship, feeling desperate or uneasy when separated from the partner, using the relationship to hide from negative feelings or situations, excessive interest in the new relationship to the exclusion of other interests and responsibilities, neglecting other key relationships in your life for the sake of pursuing the fantasized relationships. I thought that this would be a big aha moment for Waldo. I thought that in hearing her mother explain these things, that she would see herself in these things and realize that she is doing these things, that she also is, a love addict, right? I thought that it would be this full circle moment. I thought we'd finally see this growth. I thought she would like come to realize that, Corgi is just her addiction, really, but it doesn't. It doesn't at all. Literally nothing happens with this. Literally nothing happens. We find out that Waldo's mom has broken up with her boyfriend and is going on a self-discovery journey, and she apologizes for being an absent mother and wants to do better. She also says that they're going to go on this trip, and it's a trip that they had gone on once before after a really rough breakup, and it's like one of Waldo's fondest memories with her mother, and her mom, whenever she is doing better and in these like better cycles, says that they're going to go to that place again, but it never happens. Name drops in this chapter include Burlington Coat Factory, Goodwill, and Trident. In the next chapter, Corgi moves into an apartment, and while they talk about literature, Waldo says, that's how I feel about writing. I like writing that's simple, plainly stated observations, no fluff. I don't want to hear, it's the kind of gray morning with air so frigid that it makes your bones wail like a creaking staircase. I want to hear, it was a cold Tuesday, my bones hurt. Get to the point, This bothered me because this entire book is me just going, get to the point, We never do. We never get to the point. I feel like a lot of the times when people have the feeling of just get to the point when it comes to literature, they feel that way because what is being said doesn't feel like there has a point when there actually might be a point, whether it's as obvious or whatever as the person reading it wants it to be. But I also think that this is kind of ironic for Waldo to say, because I feel like there isn't a point in this book, and I feel like a lot is being said without there being a point. So it's like Waldo's kind of hypocritical of this book that she exists in, and I know I'm harping a lot on nitty-gritty details of this book, but when you dislike something, that's what you do. This is my video. I won't apologize. Name drops in this book, or in this chapter, include Don Quixote, David Foster Wallace, This Side of Paradise, Gatsby, and Clockwork Orange, bringing our total to 122. They have sex and Waldo is pretty checked out. Eventually, she says that she's not really feeling it, and that ends there. Name drops Cindy Sherman. They continue to play house. Waldo's shopping sprees kick up again. Name drops Uber Eats, Jersey Mike's, The New Yorker, Buffalo 66, and Cheetos. We get another name drop of Doritos in the next chapter. Corgi is being extremely needy for Waldo, and while she's avoiding going to his apartment, she cleans out her shopping stashes and she ends up bailing on him. Name drops Cocoa Puffs, Amazon, Shein, Marshall's, Goodwill. Waldo's mom continues to talk about her journey and how her childhood had really affected her adulthood. There's clear parallels between her and Waldo, and again, Waldo does not come to any kind of conclusion with this. She's truly just a blank wall where she listens to this information and just lets it go. There is no reflection, there's nothing from Waldo. In chapter 82, Corgi and Waldo end up having a really big fight. Corgi yells at her, quote, "I knew this would happen. I knew this would happen. You're a pursuer, a chaser. You want and you want and you want, and you're fucking ravenous about it. It consumes you. But once you get what you want, you don't want it anymore. It's the most immature thing about you." And she shoots back, "I guess that's what happens when you date an 18-year-old. He says, "You're an adult when you want me to leave my family, and you're a kid when you want to leave me." They end up vaguely apologizing to each other, but it's clear that this relationship isn't what it used to be and isn't working in the way that it once was, if it was ever really working. Waldo is invited and goes to Franny's going away party. They haven't really spoken since school got out, and it's clear that their friendship is kind of done and over, but there isn't really bad blood between the two. They say that they've missed each other, quote, "and we both mean it the same way. Neither saying it in an attempt to reignite the friendship, get it back to what it used to be, instead saying it in acceptance that we've outgrown it." I liked this because I feel like as an adult now, I've definitely had friendships that ended this way, where it was just kind of subtle and that I do still miss that person, but that's really it. Again, I think that McCurdy has like really good points, and like there's the seeds are there, but they just didn't sprout. And over again, she plants these seeds of like really relatable things, but never really expands on them. She just puts the words out there, and it feels like she just puts the words out there and expects them to do the heavy lifting, but without giving them any way to lift, you know? And that is like really what bothered me throughout so much of this book, is that there's seeds there, there's good ideas there, but she never really expands on it, and we have to expand on it ourselves. And I think that there's ways that that can work, but this was not one of them. Corgi ends up surprising Waldo with a trip to Hawaii. Name drops in this chapter are Pantene, Garnier Fructis. While they are at the airport, as the plane begins to board, Waldo goes to the bathroom. Quote, "She shuts herself in the handicapped stall for some privacy and goes to spread her makeup out on the sink." This bothered me because I don't know what standard airport handicapped stall is going to have a toilet and a sink all in one. I've been to restrooms where there was a sink in the stall, but it was very like random little mom and pop places. It wasn't a standard airport in anywhere in any kind of airport. Again, this just doesn't really make sense to me. I don't know why she wouldn't just say that she went to like a family restroom instead. Whatever. Waldo ends up leaving the airport and does not tell Corgi. Name drops include the Wordle, Connections, and Spelling Bee. In chapter 87, the second to last chapter, Waldo goes home to her mom and walks in and sees her mother and her boyfriend having sex. So this immediately breaks Waldo's trust that her mother will truly ever change. Quote, "An immaculate wave washes over me, a wave of recognition, of peace, of freedom. The peace and freedom that can only come from lowering your expectations of someone, from letting go of that person that you wanted them to be, needed them to be, and in letting go of that version, letting go too of all the resentment that comes from them not being that version." Again, like this is this is powerful. There's power in this, and this is something that like definitely happens to people and people feel, but I don't feel like McCurdy did anything with it. Like this is the most amount of depth that we get from Waldo, and it still doesn't really feel like there's much more than that. She doesn't talk about like her feelings of her mother and all the things that she wishes her mother was and would be and all of that. We just don't really get that. This is it. This is really it. Last name drop for the book is Nutter Butters, bringing our total to 140. In the last chapter, Waldo drives herself to Seward, which is that trip that her mom had always said that they would go on again. And the closest we get to any kind of growth or conclusion from Waldo throughout this entire book and about this entire relationship is maybe it's all the same. Corky and pants and YouTube and makeup and sweaters and junk food and sex. Maybe they're all just distractions from me. So, overall, my thoughts and feelings. I feel like there wasn't a point to this book. I do not know if I'm supposed to support or not support this relationship. I don't know how McCurdy wants us to feel about it. I feel like we're not supposed to because like we shouldn't, but it's not clear. But it isn't really that clear on how even Waldo feels about this relationship. There isn't enough growth through this book for Waldo to really come to that conclusion. And I feel like in a book like this, any conclusion that isn't absolutely not supporting this relationship ends up kind of supporting it. It makes it seem like this is like okay because Waldo makes it out on the other end feeling okay when it's not. It's not okay. I understand like why McCurdy wrote some of the things the way she did. I think she does a really good job at making these characters just like truly insufferable, as I've really already stated. Like I think Waldo's low self-esteem and self-pitying and this like desire to fill the void with something is very relatable, but we never get anything from that. We never get any kind of satisfaction. She never figures out something good to fill that void with, and she never acknowledges that void. And then Corgi is just an awful person. He's so self-pitying, he is so self-deprecating, he is such an insufferable person. And I think that that's really good, that McCurdy did a really good job with writing that character and bringing those characteristics out, but she doesn't do anything with them. He's nothing more than just a plot device, and I hate that. I really just walked away from this book feeling like there wasn't a point to it. I did not feel like these characters had really learned and grown in any kind of way. I did not feel like the sex in this book was necessary or added to the conversation. I really hated the writing style a lot. It felt like a Wattpad book, and in many times it felt like a self-insert for McCurdy. It's, I think, impossible to separate that idea from this book because of the memoir and because we know of her relationship with her own mother in real life. So it's really hard to read Waldo as a character and not see McCurdy in her, and it's really hard not to just feel like this is a self-insert. I really hated how Gwen was painted throughout this entire book, as she's just like the worst other woman when she's the first woman. I don't think that's particularly helpful. I had a lot of issues with just the way this book was written. The whole using slang in the narration was really annoying. I didn't think the sentences were that engaging just about ever. The very obvious inaccuracies in this book, the wine out of Denny's and Victoria's Secret thing, that really bothered me. The so many name drops felt just so annoying, and I understand like using a brand name every once in a while, but it just felt like this was every single time, and it just started to feel so unnecessary and just like it should have been edited out. And I know that McCurdy could hire a really good editor. I know that she has that kind of money and would have that kind of backing, but I don't know. It's really hard because this is, after all, a debut, but it's really hard not to just judge it as a debut because of all the media and press surrounding it and because of McCurdy's memoir. I think if Jeanette McCurdy did not have her name on this, I would not feel nearly as harsh and feel nearly as upset, but her name is on it. Like I can't separate it from her. And it's also really frustrating, like going back to just their relationship in this book, it's really frustrating when McCurdy has kind of painted herself as like one of the poster children for inappropriate relations with a minor, to have written a book that doesn't make it abhorrent. You know, it feels like we are supposed to support their relationship. And when you've made yourself like one of the people to be so against it so publicly and so loudly, and then to just not, yes ma'am, and then to not really like expand on that was just really like upsetting. I think overall I understand why McCurdy wrote the book the way she did, and I think that she has a really good knack for writing these types of characters, but she's not doing anything with them. She's not doing anything with the plot, and there were just so many chapters and scenes that I felt were so unnecessary and just boring to read and just made me roll my eyes. So I really didn't like this book for a lot of different reasons, on the basis of the writing itself, on the plot, and I just feel like this isn't a book that needed to exist. This isn't a story that needed to be told, and the way to make it better would be to be more certain about not supporting their relationship. So I also think that the graphic sex was really gross. So, that's really it. That's really, at this point, all I have to say about the book. I know that people either really love it or really hate it. And if you love it, like, tell me why. I do want to know. I just feel like there's too much in this book that's bad for me to enjoy it and even recommend it to anyone. Go watch Jess Owen's video on it. Go watch Elle Literacy's video. I'm sure it's so much better than mine, and that their thoughts are more coherent than mine were. But yeah, did you read it? Did you like it? Do you agree with my points? Have you ordered wine at Denny's? Please, if you've ordered wine at a Denny's, let me know. Until next time, me and Christy will give you peace and love. Bye.